What's up guys, it's Avery here. Saving for a down payment is obviously a major part of buying a house. And it's not just the down payment that you're saving for, there's also the inspection, appraisal, and other closing costs that you're gonna need to have some cash in order to buy your house. And a lot of people talk about budgeting and saving money for this down payment, and they talk about canceling your subscriptions. If you have Netflix, you also don't need Disney Plus. And to that I say, F you. I wanna watch Mulan and buy a house too. If this is your first time to the channel, or if you're turning and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, don't forget to do that. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any real estate investing techniques or things that you can do with your money in order to build your wealth. And make sure you don't cancel that subscription because it's gonna be the most valuable one that you have. Saving for a down payment highly depends on your timeline, your risk tolerance, as well as your mindset. And I'm going to touch base on all of these things, but first, what are we actually saving for? People are typically putting down somewhere between 3% and 20% in order to buy a home. And those are not the only costs that you're going to have in order to purchase that house. You're also going to have closing costs. And that will include things like an inspection fee, so you know what the issues are with the home before you buy it, as well as an appraisal so that the bank knows that you're not overpaying for that asset, and any closing costs associated with actually changing over the title or the deed, any lawyer fees and things like that. As well, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have some money left over for any repairs or any reserves that may come up within the first few months of home ownership, as well as beyond. Something that I've done in order to lessen the burden of how much money I actually need to bring to closing is wrapping the closing costs within a loan. So if we have a $100,000 house and you have typically $6,000 of closing costs, that's just an example. They can vary depending on region to region. But if you have $6,000 of closing costs in this scenario, and then you offer $106,000 to the seller with a $6,000 closing credit, that means that the $6,000 are baked into your loan and the seller is giving you that money at closing so you don't have to bring that money out of your pocket. And that $6,000 amortized over 30 years is going to be very little money towards your monthly payment. And if you don't have that cash right now, or you want to put that cash towards any repairs or maintenance costs, this could be a good idea for you. Now that we know what we're actually saving for, and it's not just the down payment, we have to have a good understanding on how to save our money. And if you're interested in checking a video on how I save 80% of my income, check it out up here or in the description below. And I talk a lot about the different things that people spend their money on each month and what are good things that you should save on. So typically when people talk about saving, they're talking about canceling their subscriptions. So if you have Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO, all this stuff, if you get rid of that, and if you stop buying coffee at Starbucks, you're gonna all of a sudden be rich. And that really isn't the case. If you're gonna be spending $1,000 a year, let's say, buying your coffee at Starbucks, or an extra $10 a month on each of those subscriptions, if you do the math over the course of a year, that's not going to be a crazy amount of savings throughout the year. Now, I'm a proponent of making sure that I don't do those kinds of things, but you also want to make sure that you're saving money where it counts. Your housing, your transportation, and your food budget are your most expensive categories that you spend money on each month. If you go from spending $2,000 a month on housing to $1,000 a month on housing, you're gonna save $12,000 a year. Whereas if you stopped purchasing your drinks at Starbucks, you're only gonna save $1,100 to $1,200, depending on how many Starbucks you buy each year. That is not very much money compared to what you could save on spending a whole lot less on housing. So make sure you're saving where it counts. In this video, I didn't want to talk exactly about saving your money specifically, but more about where you should store that money that you're putting towards your down payment so that you can purchase this home. And if you're trying to save more money, learn how to increase your income, lower your expenses. And if you increase your income, don't spend more money. And if you decrease your expenses, don't take that added savings and put it towards another expense. Make sure you take that money, put it towards your down payment fund, or put it towards other investments. So there are a number of different places that you can actually store the funds when you're putting money towards your down payment. And you're not gonna have that full fund saved up right away. You're gonna be putting a little bit of money in each time you get paid. So there are a number of places that you can put it. The first would be your checking account, another would be your savings account, a third would be a high yield savings account. And if you're interested in opening one of those up, check it out in the description below. If you use my referral link, you'll get an extra 0.2% yield per year. So will I, so you'll be supporting the channel that way, and it's still free. just like subscribing or smashing the like button. Another place that you could put it would be in the stock market, in something like low-cost index funds. And if you want it to be really risky, you could buy a bunch of cryptocurrency and make money that way in order to grow your down payment fund. Personally, I wouldn't ever put my down payment fund in a checking or savings account. Using basically any institutional bank and keeping your money in there is going to be the worst thing that you can do for your money. Yes, it's technically safe, but your money is going to devalue with inflation over time, and it's not going to be working for you or doing basically anything. And the bank takes that money that you have sitting in that bank and loans it out to other people and makes more money off of your money. Instead of the bank making a bunch of money off of your money, make sure you make money off of your own money and put it to work elsewhere so you can increase that down payment fund so you can buy that house faster. Risk tolerance, timeline, as well as your mindset towards buying a house are all really important here. So is your timeline to buy a house in 1 to 2 years and you're not that risky? Maybe you want to keep all of your money in a high yield savings account where it's earning 0.5% and it's guaranteed and you know it's not going to devalue in terms of the amount that you put in. If you're buying a home in 1 to 2 years and you decide to put some money in low-cost index funds or in cryptocurrency, you have run potentially some pretty big risks of the market crashing or cryptocurrency crashing or not being able to take your money out of that cryptocurrency. So there's a lot of issues that could be involved in that. If you're planning on buying a house 5 to 7 years from now, and typical market cycles look a little bit like this, they don't all go down, they eventually are going up over time, then I would think you could be a little bit more aggressive and put more of your money in index funds. And all of these things I'm suggesting, please do your own research. I'm just a random guy on YouTube offering you up some advice. So in terms of that risk tolerance and that timeline, think about how you are as an individual, how well you'll sleep at night knowing that if you want to buy a house next year and you're saving aggressively and you're putting all of this hard work and all of your money into that down payment fund and you really don't want to lose it and you want that house that badly, I would keep it on the safer side. You could keep some of that money in the stock market and a majority of it in your high yield savings account, or maybe all of it in the high yield savings account. But if you're someone who is planning on buying 5 to 7 years from now, if you keep putting all of your money in low cost index funds, even if you're hitting it at the top of the market today, the market will eventually rebound up so you can continue buying at all of the high points now and the low points later, which will eventually be lower than the higher points later on down the road, 5 to 7 years from now, just based on historical cycles. So if your timeline is later on, I would be a little bit more aggressive about that down payment fund so you can let it grow a little bit quicker so you can get those dividends as well as any gains in those stocks, whereas in the high yield savings account, all you're going to be getting is that small amount of interest. Now, if you're an extremely risky person and you are wanting to buy a house in the next year or so, and you totally believe in cryptocurrencies and you understand how they work, and you know that if you buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can earn 5% to 6% interest on your money, plus the potential gains, then maybe you're going to put your money there. Personally, I'm not going to be doing that. If I'm putting any money towards cryptocurrencies, I am going into that with the mindset that it could potentially all go down to zero, and I'm okay with losing all of that money. So if I'm really interested in buying a home, I'm not going to be that aggressive. I know that that house will be a better investment for me, and most likely with a combination of the high yield savings account and the stock market investing in those low cost index funds will work better for me. And just because you're someone who is super risk averse or someone who is maybe a bit more risky, you don't have to just pick one or the other. You could do a combination of all three and maybe base each amount of money that you put into these specific investment accounts based on your risk tolerance. If you're in the middle of the road for risk, you could put some money into the stock market and then a little bit less into the high yield savings account, or you could put all of your 90% of your money in the stock market and 10% in the high yield savings account. If you're super risky, maybe 90-10. You get the picture. Understand what your timeline is, when you need that money for the house, and how you sleep at night, because that's the most important thing about where you're actually going to be putting your money. We've talked about risk, we've talked about timeline. The last thing that is important when saving up for a down payment is your mindset. So your mindset is, do you want a house so badly that if there was a correction, you would absolutely hate yourself? You wish that you had more of that money so you could go buy more houses. Because if there's a correction in the stock market or in the economy as a whole, the real estate market generally follows. So do you wish that you had more money so you could buy more houses and buy more deals because you're buying at the lower end of the real estate prices and you know they're going to shoot up and you're going to make a much better investment than you did by those potential gains of buying at the top of the stock market, buying into cryptocurrencies, and you're going to absolutely kick yourself 10 years from now knowing that you wish you just played it a little bit safer so that you could get that house because you believed in real estate investing, you believed in the rental income, cash flow appreciation, all that stuff as to being a better investment for you. And you may be saying to that, Avery, why don't I just sell those shares that are losing value? And to that I say, at least smash the like button before you do something that stupid. General rule of thumb is if the value of the stock, especially in low-cost index funds, are going down, make sure that you keep buying as it's going down so you can dollar cost average each share that you own. So if it's $100 and it goes down to 80, don't sell so you've lost $20. Keep buying at 80 and then 60 and then 50, and then eventually it'll go up above $100 so your value per share is a much better amount than if you sold and just lost $20. That is a really good rule of thumb, but maybe if this is a company that you've bought a bunch of stock in because you didn't do a lot of research or a lot of work and they eventually go to zero, then maybe you want to think about selling, but that's based on your own understanding of that stock because you've done your own research. But with low-cost index funds, they typically go up around 6 to 8% annually, and you will actually get that return realized over time as long as you hold long enough. We've talked about what you're actually saving for, where to store those funds, how to save more money, your various risk tolerance, timeline, and mindset towards buying a house. And it really is all up to you. There is no one size fits all in terms of how you're saving money and where you're storing it for that down payment. I'm personally someone who is middle of the road risky, maybe even closer to risk averse, which sometimes I tell that to people and they say you bought houses with 3.5% down that equal over $1 million. And to me that didn't seem risky because I knew the investment so well. And that's another good way to lower your risk and how you feel about investment is understanding it really well. So if you get to know that these index funds are going to perform well for you and you understand the risks associated with investing in that stock or buying that cryptocurrency and you really believe in it, you'll feel better about your investment. And if you are extremely risk averse and you're buying in a year, just keep it all in a high yield savings account. You're going to feel okay about it. You're going to have that money going towards your down payment. Really, you're going to have to ask yourself and understand how much money you're going to need to save and exactly what your goals are so you can align them with where you're putting your money in the long term. If all you really want to do is just buy a house because you want to buy a house, you're not going to be too worried about buying a house within the next 1 to 2 years. Maybe sitting on it and holding on to the money in the stock market is a good idea if the market crashes and you're not totally set on buying a house. If you really want to buy a house and you really want to be a real estate investor, I would be a little bit more risk averse when it comes to these things and maybe play the field a little bit where you're 50-50. But again, it's all totally up to you and something you need to ask yourself based on what your risk profile is and these other things that we've talked about. And the most important thing is making sure you can still sleep at night. So do your research, know yourself well, and put your money into those places so it reflects your personality and your goals. I hope this video helps you guys understand where you can put your money when you're saving for a down payment, and I hope all of you reach your real estate goals. And don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends so more people can see this video. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.